Hi, everybody. I'm Pastor Jay from Life Church, and we are reading through the New Testament. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Today should be January the 8th. It's day 4, and we're looking at Mark chapter 4. I love Mark chapter 4 because of the parable of the sower. It's so powerful when it talks about these things, and we can all find ourselves at one time or another in our life, I think, being each type of this ground as we see it. The whole chapter is about Jesus teaching in parables, and then the end, the very last verse, gives us a great leadership tip. So if you're a leadership person, you're going to love this, but you have to wait till the end of the chapter to get there. So Jesus tells this whole story in a parable, and his disciples were really confused. They were like, okay, Jesus, what exactly did you mean by that? So he comes back and he explains it. And this is what he tells them. There's the sower that sows by the wayside. Now the seed, remember, is the same. Incorruptible seed of the Word of God is sown to all men. We've all received it. You've already received it just in these first few days. The Word of God is what I'm sowing right now. Every time you share the gospel, you're sowing the Word of God. So he sows it by the wayside, which is like shallow ground. There's not a whole lot of place for it to go in. And it says, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away that word. I'm sure there's been times when you've heard the word being preached and maybe a fly landed on your nose and you were distracted. Satan immediately took the word. Or maybe all of a sudden you started thinking about what you were going to eat for lunch or dinner. Maybe you started thinking about how odd the preacher looked or how the preacher talked strange. There's one preacher who was really, really powerful, and the way that he talked just annoyed me. And it was really hard for me to get anything from him until I found somebody who had had a mighty miracle in their life by that particular minister. And that made me pay attention and say, I was wrong. I was shallow ground. I wasn't receiving the word. Satan was stealing the word that that preacher was preaching just because of the way he sounded to me and the way that he looked to me. So the next one is one that has no root or stony ground, no depth. And that person would receive the word with gladness, but not having any root in them. When persecution and affliction comes, immediately they are offended. What are we talking about roots? Think about in Psalm 1, it says, and you shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. A tree planted by the rivers of water has roots going down into the river. Those leaves don't get offended. They prosper. They grow fruit. They just keep right on going. So it's a really wonderful thing when we're like that. We don't get offended. We don't leave church, stop hanging out with Christians because somebody offended us if we have the roots to handle it. The third kind is those that are choked out, the thorny ground. And this is it's particularly a great illustration when I'm teaching this in person. If I have a volunteer, I bring them to me and I'm going to read it and then I'll show it to you, and you can imagine somebody here when I show you this illustration. It says, these are they which are sown among the thorns, such as hear the word, just like the others, and the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches. Riches are deceitful. They look like they'll make you happy, but they won't. They look like success, but it isn't. Deceitfulness of riches. And the lusts of other things. What other things? Whatever things you lust after. Doesn't matter, because the Lord is your shepherd, you shall not want. When you're wanting, lusting, you know there's something wrong. And those things, they enter in and they choke the word. So just imagine that I grab a hold of somebody by the neck and I choke them. If I stop their air, their face will turn red and they will begin to die. Literally, the deceitfulness of riches and cares of the world will choke the word of God out of you and make it unfruitful if you don't get rid of those influences on your life. And then the fourth one, we should all say, this is me. Although remember, Jesus gave 1 in 4 that received the word and bore fruit. Think about that. Are you the 1 out of 4? Maybe you just want to say, I'm 1 in 4, because this is the one we want to be. It says that the good ground, such as hear the word, receive it, and bring forth fruit 30-fold, 60, and 100-fold. That's what I call being fruitful, is when you're having returns like that. And so he went on telling parables, and verse 34, actually, it's not the last verse. In 34, it says, but without a parable spake he not unto them, and when they were alone, he expounded all things to his disciples. He didn't tell all the customers everything, but the staff, he told everything to, and he expounded on them, and he told them everything about it. And of course, then in the very last part, we see where Jesus calms the storm, and they're all in a boat. They're already getting ready to sink. All these fishermen are really scared. He says, peace and be still. The winds cease. And then he asks this question, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? Can you imagine thinking you're going to die? And the Son of God, the preacher, says, why are you fearful? How is it you have no faith? You see, faith casts out fear. Fear and faith are opposing forces. Fear will motivate you to do things that don't make sense. Faith will motivate you to do things that don't naturally make sense. But faith will take you to victory. Fear will trap you in defeat. So let's live a life of faith, and let's be the 1 in 4, and we will see you tomorrow. And looking forward to the next chapter.